Hello and welcome to Mind of the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Hi, I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue, media specialist for the LFA. In Mind of the Forest, we talk about forestry, how important managed forests are to the environment, and the benefits they offer for wildlife and water protection. Those benefits are why the LFA promotes keeping Louisiana's almost 15 million acres of forests as forests. Forest products industry, including forest landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers such as lumber, paper, and pellet mills, plays an important role in the conservation and management of forests for the important renewable natural resource it is. This episode of Mind of the Forest is sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office, or you can find them online at firstsouthland.com. This is episode 68 of Mind of the Forest. In 2025, Forester Joe Shively submitted the W.H. Ward family property to the Louisiana Forestry Association as a nominee for Tree Farmer of the Year. And they won. This is a unique family, and they've kept their property in an expanding family for almost a century. As the family of W.H. Ward expanded and new generations came along, it has formed a company that keeps the family involved every year. This is their story that is not only unique, but incredible in the cohesiveness of this family. It's really inspiring. Here's the story of the W.H. Ward family property. Today we are with family members of W.H. Ward. W.H. Ward Properties was the Tree Farmer of the Year for 2025 in Louisiana, and we congratulate you again. We had a chance to celebrate y'all last year at our annual convention in Lake Charles, and today we just want to know a little bit more, and we're going to put it out on our podcast and let folks learn a little bit more about the WH properties. So we have with us today Joe Shively, who is the property's forester. We have Catherine Ward Hubbard, who is the firstborn of the firstborn of the firstborn. We'll get to that story. I want to talk about that. Catherine Ward Hubbard and Sharon Ward Shirley.
Yes.
And where do you fit in this family lineup?
My grandfather was the firstborn, Albert, same as hers. My father's a little farther down in the lineage. He's the second to youngest son out of 6 children.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the founding of the property. Tell us a little bit of history about that, Catherine.
Well, I think, as I know the story, it started in the early 1900s with W.H. Ward. And he purchased the property here in these parishes because they had a sawmill and a lumber yard down in Algiers, New Orleans, Louisiana. And his idea was that he would be able to fell some of the trees from up here and put them on the river and get them down to the sawmill that was on the river in New Orleans. And that, in fact, was the real deal. But hard times hit. 1929, the 30s, taxes were not paid, and the family just kind of survived through the 30s. His firstborn son, Albert, was a young father at the time, and he kind of picked up the pieces of the family. He was able to, because of the sawmill, garner a large, I guess I'd call it dormitory that belonged to the government. Mm-hmm. And they said at the time, if you pay us $100 and you have a way to move it, it's yours. Well, being with the sawmill, he had a way to move large, pieces of lumber.
Yeah.
And down in Algiers Point, my father remembers this large white dormitory building coming down one of these old streets and actually watching them back it into a piece of property that W.H. Ward had with oxen on logs. So this would have been in the 30s, and that was part of the equipment that the sawmill used. So they got it in there, and that's where the W.H. Ward came through the Great Depression. Along with that, as they came through it, Albert wanted to rescue back his father's land. And so he came up to Jena, Louisiana, to work out with the government, how do I get my land back? The government had already taken it for lack of taxes. And as I hear this story, there's a hotel down here that we all turn left at to go to the property. And in the back room upstairs, the oil guys of the day used to have a card game, a poker game. And they were people like the Hunts, the big oil names from Texas and Louisiana, and some attorneys, local attorneys, and they played poker. And Albert, not having enough money, made a deal with one of the attorneys there, and they worked it out that if he would front Albert a little bit more money, this other gentleman would receive a portion of the land. And if Albert won, Albert got our land back. Albert got the land back. And so he rescued the forest land here. And the land, once his father passed, W.H., was owned by Albert, his brother, W.H., and his 3 sisters. So for all those years, Albert would take care of the property up here. And he was a very old school forest man, not like Joe here, very selective in how they would fell trees and how they would replant. So Albert did that, and Albert's firstborn was my father, another W.H. So my father, W.H., when Albert passed, was handed the reins of this property. And so my dad used to say, well, I'm caring for the elders of the family, because who survived was one of the W.H.'s and the 3 sisters, Doris and Inez and Marion. So at the time, there was forestry happening, there was oil happening, and it was enough income that it supported those elderly people. Well, Albert did that for a lot of years on his own. He passed, handed it to my dad. My dad did it for, Ann can say, but I think it's about 40 years on his own. So my dad, who had 4 kids, lived in Algiers and Gretna. All those years by himself, would just come up here and dedicated himself to keeping his father's land in the family and keeping those elder members of our family supplied with the income that they deserved. So growing up, I knew my dad do that. As my father reached into his 80s, he reached out to me, and I'm the 4th of his children. And I started coming up here and following him. And old Joe took me around in his truck the first time I came and just fed me with a fire hose. There was no way I could take it all in.
Yeah.
But I was very grateful to be here with my dad and to have Joe tell me all about our property. So as I know it, that's our story. Eventually, when Dad handed the Albert family directorship to me, he also chose the 3 girls that he had been working for to take over. So when the 3 girls took over, they are the ones that turned it into a very family, social, gathered us around kind of group, because that's what most of us women do, right? Dad ran it on his own, but handed over to the ladies, and they became very inclusive of the family. And it's been a joy. It's been a joy. Not many families know their second cousins like we do.
Yeah.
And because of this property, because our entire family, Albert, my dad, William H., the ladies, we get together. And I know second cousins. We now meet together for Christmas in Gretna. We go for cousins weekends. We do things outside of this now. That is all because of this property. So for me, it's near and dear to my heart because it's near and dear to my father's heart. And he did it because it was near and dear to his father and up the line. And I now have sitting with me my daughter, Diane, and she's here because she wants to keep it going. So that's my story.
Catherine, you mentioned about the women taking over, and it is a family reunion.
It is.
Every year. How does that work? How did that get established in that fashion? I know it's a business, and it's very unusual to have family so cohesive and so interested in meeting one another and coming back to see one another. And how did that evolve?
Well, there's always a utilitarian part to it. The ladies are so good at organizing. They're the ones that incorporated. They're the ones that, I guess, started the initial let's do it. But I think there's so many of us in this family. My dad's generation was the greatest generation. He flew over Germany, flew 35 runs, and survived to come home and have 5 children.
Wow.
Every one of Albert's children are of the greatest generation. They built their own small businesses and built beyond they just were an incredible family. And I think every one of us at my level grew up admiring our parents. It was a deep love and admiration for what they gave us. And I think when Anne and Betty and Margaret put the call out, a lot of us responded out of that, just an admiration for what had come before us, and probably all the things that our fathers and mothers had put into us about a love of family. So I think that's it. The ladies put the structure out there for us and continued to do it year after year. And those of us that felt that love of family just kept showing up. And we work hard. Yeah. We work hard. My father had 5 children, and those 5 children, my father had 5 children. His first brother had 2, his next brother had 2, the next one had 1, the next one had 5, the next one had 3. So it's a lot in my generation. I think we might have 21 cousins just in Albert's family.
Wow.
So it is a lot of work to email, track down, keep telling them what we're doing, keep telling them and keep having pictures out there. And I think through the years they've just learned to appreciate what these ladies have built.
So Sharon, where do you fit in the family? She's the firstborn, and you fall into what line?
Well, her father was the firstborn in the family. My father was the second to last of 7 children. So I'm one of 5 also. Kathy's one of 5. I'm one of 5. Our fathers are one of 6, and our grandfather Albert was one of 5. And W.H. was an only child. So all of us come from that one W.H. ward. And it's amazing to see all of us here. So my father started coming, so many years ago, and he passed 4 years ago, and he had started to bring us kids into it, who can come, who cannot come. And we're all talking about trying to get people to come, get more of the family to come. And it's just our time of life. You know, we're involved with our kids. We're living out of the state and different things. So it just fell into my lap that I was going to come one weekend. And I met people I had no idea even existed. They just weren't even on it was like having a DNA test and finding out you had a whole nother family there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up with that. Kathy being part of the beginning of that or that lineage, and me being at the other end, there's what do we say, 12, 13 years between the two? So it was like 2 different families. And being guys, they didn't do the things that we women will do to keep the families together. So we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
So coming here, I knew my father being Albert and his brother living in the New Orleans area where I grew up. I was well aware of them and their families. But for Aunt Inez and Aunt Doris and Marion, I just did not know them or their children. So coming here, it's like, just meeting new people. Yeah. And it's been so much fun. And you see this DNA coming through and you're like, oh, yeah. I mean, they're definitely all of these different things about you. You're definitely a ward. It's just been really fun. And I'm one of 5. 4 of us out of the 5 were here this weekend. We've just decided that this was going to be important to us, to still have that.
Wonderful. Joe, I remember last year when you came to the LFA office and said, I've got this client or this family that is so unique that I really think that they should be Tree Farm of the Year. And they were judged Tree Farmer of the Year. Tell us a little about how did you become involved and how did you set goals with so many people that own this property and want to see it flourish?
Well, my background, when I went to work with Stone Container in 1988, we had a landowner assistance program. Mm-hmm. So my background was geared toward working with private landowners. We did all the field work. We wrote management plans, short and long-term management plans. So Miss Ann's daughter is married to a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, and she approached me probably 2012, 2013, and said, "Hey, Joe, we're looking for a forester, and we've decided we want you to be our forester." I said, "Okay, Miss Ann, well, I'll do the best I can." So in 2014, I went and looked at their property for the first time and went to the first meeting the next year, I think. And they were in the process of transferring their property from uneven age management to pine plantations, more of an even age type scenario. They realized that the markets were changing. The new mills that were being built were not hardwood mills like the property had originally been used for. Yeah. So, credit to them for seeing that. And they said, this is what we want to do. So we started in 1914.
Wow, you look
24.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
25 years.
I've aged well, I think. But so we started in 2014, and I went and looked at the properties and wrote a management plan, mm-hmm. and we got started trying to see what they had and see what their goals and objectives were. When you're working with private landowners, it's about their goals and objectives.
Right.
And so we geared everything, the first management plan, to where they wanted to be. And we've done some good things the past few years in moving towards that end goal. So that's where we are right now. It's really been a pleasure to work with folks that they don't ever question me when they ask me, what do we need to do? And I tell them, let's do it. And it's a pleasure to work with people like that realize you have the expertise to help them.
Right.
And so it's been a great ride for me, too, to work with these folks.
What was your first impression when you came to one of these gatherings? Just to kind of be clear for our listeners, right now we're sitting in the library in LaSalle Parish in Jena. It's where they meet every year, and it is a business meeting, mm-hmm. but it's a family social as well. So your first experience with that, what do you think?
I thought, people don't do this.
Yeah.
People I've been doing this for a long time. I've never seen a family that does this, and I work with a lot of really good landowners for a long time, and people just don't do what they do. They don't get together and have a family get together, and mm-hmm. and so glad to see everybody and trying to get new family members in here. So that was my first thought. I thought, man, I've never seen this happen before. This is kind of special.
What impressed you about the property when you first got started?
Really the changes that they had already started making, trying to transition to the even age management, mm-hmm. because they realized what was coming down the road.
Yeah.
You could see the properties where they had been. They still had a vestige of the old uneven age management, mm-hmm. but that impressed me that they had already realized where they needed to be, and they had started that movement toward making that end meet.
Yeah. So what did you have to do first?
Just any time you start with management, you go look at the properties and write a management plan. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I did.
Okay. And in that management plan, you looked at the property, and what were the changes that you wanted to do? Well,
we had some timber that we needed to do a total harvest and start over. Mm-hmm. We just finally, a couple of years ago, got one. We're making a transition. Part of the old uneven age management didn't allow it to have a fully stocked stand, really, of anything.
Yeah.
And we were finally able to get in and do the total harvest on it, and we'll be moving into pine plantation. They've got a lot of hardwood sites still on the property and with an emphasis on wildlife on some of it, and they want to keep that. They want to preserve that as it is. Mm-hmm. It's not just about making $1. It's about what's doing right for the property.
Yeah.
So they have wildlife interests. They have they don't believe in converting everything to pine plantation. Right. It's just great to work with people that want to do the right thing for the property.
It's interesting to see the vision of property owners when they decide, yes, I do want to earn resources, but that is turned back into the property so that you have enhanced wildlife areas, you have recreation, you have places where I guess the new generations can just come and be and enjoy the land itself. That's what it sounds like to me.
The template is set, and yes, it's for the kids and the younger people. Mm-hmm. All they have to do is show up and see what's going on, and they're talking with their parents and grandparents, and it's and weren't many kids here this year, but a lot of times there are a lot of kids here that mm-hmm. and they come be part of the land, you know.
Yeah.
And it's going to be theirs one day, and it's good to see the kids show up out here. That's the future of them keeping this property in the family.
Is that what makes it kind of special to you, and that to see the generational involvement with the property?
Definitely.
And you see a future with that as well.
Well, because I see so many times when the older generation passes on, the kids get that property and it's just a source of revenue, mm-hmm. and it leaves the family. Mm-hmm. And that's generally what happens, you know, and that's not the best thing, but that's reality. That's the way it is. So to see what they're doing is really something special. And I don't think they realize how special. Some of them do, yeah. But people just don't do what they do, you know.
It is more enjoyable, it sounds like to you, to work with a property like this.
Yes.
As a professional forester, what are the challenges that you have?
I don't know. To be working with people that say, Joe, you have the answers. You know, we're going to do what you suggest. Mm-hmm. You know, from the family standpoint, there are no challenges. The challenges for me, from a professional standpoint, is to, of course, timber prices, yeah, contractors, the things that I do in my job that I'm trying to do the best job for them.
Right.
Is a challenge to me, and some of those things I don't have any control over. Most of those things I don't. I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of people, so I'm able to get some things done sometimes that you think, you know, wouldn't get done. Mm-hmm. But it's not, I want to do the best job for them, and they want me to, so that takes a lot of the challenge out of it to begin with. It's just really the everyday forestry and logging and price mills, things like that I struggle with.
Yeah, the normal challenges of the industry.
Of the forester, right.
It's ups and downs. And,
right.
Yeah, right now we're in a challenging market.
Very much so, we are.
I want to hear the story of, we were talking a little bit earlier, Catherine, about not the card game, but the house project that your father had.
Yes.
And this is when living in Gretna at the time, I think he said?
Yes. I think most of Albert's family migrated from Algiers up to Gretna. Mm-hmm. And Dad was a custom home builder for his whole life. And he and his wife were elderly, mm-hmm. and they were looking for a project. And in the historic part of Gretna, they found a little old, dilapidated, yellow building on Huey P. Long Avenue. And it didn't even have a porch. It just had a little stoop, the kind of cinder block stoop you would stick in front of a step up. And they chose that one. And in the course of taking apart and putting it back together, it took a lot. Yeah. My stepmother was a very creative person, very design-worthy. She took on that side of it. My dad, being a little elderly, incorporated my brother, who's also in the home building industry, and so it was a joint project. When they got into the house, Dad's walking across it and literally fell through the timbers. It was a pier and beam. And there he is standing down there. And at his age, he would not have purposefully gone under there, but being there, you know, they look around and they find a beam, a 4x4 beam. It still very lightly has printed on it W.H. Ward lumber. And the man was in tears when he saw it. He couldn't believe it. You know, here's his father's and his grandfather's lumber yard. And as they delved in deeper, they found a smaller, must have been a 3x3 beam, and it had imprinted on it Algiers sawmill. So he was just like, he couldn't believe that his father and his grandfather's lumber was still in this home. They took that lumber and had it refreshed, and the 4x4 is in the kitchen now. It is the shelf above the stove and holds spices and things. And the smaller beam is in the dining room and just graces the dining room, says Algiers Sawmill. But the sawmill itself is such a huge part of the history of this whole thing. In New Orleans, on the West Bank, in Algiers, the sawmill was on the river, literally on the river.
Yeah.
And when New Orleans realized it needed levees, the sawmill was on the wrong side of where they wanted to put that levee. So there was a huge court case and how they were going to settle that and move the sawmill to the right side of the levee. And they eventually did, and they got it solved. But that was my father's history. So to find that lumber in there was just so meaningful.
Well, you know that there's a lot of that lumber around New Orleans, but you never really expect to uncover it, do you?
Yeah, and that little house, to have picked one, you know, I bet if you looked under most homes in Gretna, you might find that. You're right.
Yeah.
But I just grew up with all those sweet stories that all of us share, that we all know about their history, and it was a good one. It was a hardworking one. It's a good one.
Sharon, what about you? Do you have any stories about the property that come to mind?
As I said, my father was down the line a little bit, and we didn't grow up with those kinds of stories. And so for me, I said, Kathy, I've never heard these stories. She goes, which one? I said, none of them. I've never heard them. But I worked at the lumber yard in my high school and into college years during the summers. And up in the offices. I didn't, I wasn't down in the lumber part, but it was a huge thing. You'd come across the Mississippi River Bridge, and there was this huge Ward lumber. Yeah. You could see it, and you knew. When I'd come home from college, I was like, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And but it's such a legacy to all of us that we don't even know the history of, that we are a part of, and it's just, to me, it's so exciting to hear of. I think talking to Joe over here, I think looking at it as preserving and conserving is what we're doing here, and it's not about the money. Nobody's getting rich off of what we're doing here. But it is preserving a legacy that was started, and it's worth preserving, because if it had not been put into this incorporation, it would have been sold. Right, Joe? It had been sold. It had been carved up. It would have been a subject. It could have been anything. But we, the generations before me had decided that they wanted to preserve this. And I think I'm so excited to see that. You've got 2,800 acres now that are going to probably live in perpetuity, because we've done what we've done, and there's money to do what needs to be done. Had it been left to each and every one of us, we might not have decided to do that. We would have been looking more towards, probably, let's see what we can get for it. Why do we go up? Why do we go up there? But for me, it's a whole new part of life for me to learn this stuff. So it's wonderful.
Let me tell a fun story about your dad, since you don't
please
have
do.
one. So her dad in the family, everybody's got a piece that they bring to the family, and her dad brought the fun. He brought the fun from the day he graced this earth. He was the one that took a few different high schools to get him through to the
He
end.
did.
He was
That's
always
right.
having way too
That's
much
right.
fun. That was Bobby.
That really was.
And he did it in everything, all the way through his young adult years. And when the family started getting together out here, Bobby was here, and Bobby brought the fun. He is a big personality. He was a big part of this. And now Bobby has passed. And now his son Robert is here. And Robert has the same personality, and he's bringing it. And that's a lot of why I think we're all sticking together, is that family just keeps replicating itself. And it's a lot of fun.
But we find that kind of personality in almost every one of the lines.
Yeah.
You know, Keith is the same way, and you've got Meg is the same. It's like they're.
No, her dad brought the fun.
It's there. It's there. It's coming down the line. So
sort of an in-person ancestry.com, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Is it often that you hear stories about your father that you hadn't known before?
I'm learning more and more. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. It's like, tell me stories about, because my dad didn't talk a lot about that, and, actually when he was dying or was infirmed, and, I told my stepmother, I said, I'll come and give you 2 weeks at a time. Give me 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Let me go home for 2 weeks. I'll come back. So to free her up to come, go to, see her family. And, being one of 5 children, you don't often get one-on-one time, with your parent. And I just realized that at my age, it was the first time I'd really had one-on-one time with my dad, for him to tell me the stories about, growing up in Algiers, and I didn't realize his love for horses, and I didn't realize all these different things. And then he passed, and I don't get to follow up on those stories anymore. So I'm here trying to ask questions about him growing up, and just so that I can pass that on.
These family gatherings happen every year. This is a business, but a joyful gathering every year.
It's necessary.
It's necessary.
For us to have the business.
Okay.
You have to have an annual meeting.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's pretty much what this is our annual meeting, which turns into a reunion, seeing who can come.
So there is a business portion to it.
Sure.
But I'm sure y'all eat well. Yeah?
We play well.
We visit Jena's finest, yes. Yes, we do. And, absolutely, the structure underneath are these ladies here.
Yeah.
It's Ann and Margaret and Betty. And they really have provided a structure that we can just keep doing this.
We talk about Jena. The town knows y'all well, does it not?
Yes. So my first recollection coming here, there wasn't a lot of Jena. McDonald's wasn't here. There was not much here. And we would get here and we would fill up the townsmen in. And you got this sense that when the Ward family got to town, the rest of the town was looking at, who are these intruders? What is going on here? And they're starting to notice once a year, these people are coming. And I would say, like during my dad's time, we didn't have a whole lot of community interaction. It was just Dad coming up here, doing his job, and going home.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the ladies have instilled is that community connection. It is reaching out and playing nicely with the community, because it all comes back to you. It creates a name, it creates an environment, and it all comes back to you the same way you gave it out. So we would visit these little establishments in Jena in the beginning, and people would look at us and give us kind of the side eye. But I think because of the efforts through these years, I think we're welcomed. I think the attitude is very positive. And it's been fun to watch Jena grow, because there are a lot more places to eat now than there were in the beginning.
They had to prepare for y'all.
Yeah.
And there's also a scholarship involved with the property, is there not?
There is. That's one of the other
us about
things
that.
that we came up. Well, my daughter now is on the scholarship committee. That's one more of those giving back to the communities, putting out the good name, is trying to promote forestry. So we have once a year for seniors in the area, giving out a scholarship to the one that seems most well-deserving. And we want them to be in school following a forestry program, and just meet all the right requirements, have the GPA, belong to the clubs that they need to. I think that's a great way of reaching out. We also, out at the park, during baseball season, we put our name out there. And it wasn't to put our name out there as much as it was to let them know we're here and we're a part of you. Mm-hmm. We paid the money to do that. We have helped them in different areas in that park.
Yeah.
So it's the amount that you give out to the community, I think, serves our family well, and we're welcomed here because of it.
It comes back.
It does.
In more ways. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay. Yeah. And let's see if we can get you in here, talk a little bit about business. Joe, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate that.
Thanks for
having me. Is there
me.
anything else about the property you wanted to share? That, I mean, you've been at this for 12 years now.
No, because we just don't have time for me to sit down and share everything I want to share. We'll just maybe catch up with it next time. But
you want to tell us one story before you go?
What I had in mind, talking about community involvement, they donate building materials to the Jena Band of Choctaws. Mm-hmm. Donate that stuff to them. They made a contribution to the Nebo Recreation Department down there to help buy new tables. They do a lot of things in the community, and none of them live here. They're just so appreciative of what this community is giving them. They want to give something back, and that's another impressive thing. They're just great people to work with, and I'm glad to be here. I kind of hated to see the scholarship program because I kind of think they're looking for my replacement, but I'm going to be here as long as I can. They're going to have to run me off, but thanks for having me though, and I can't say enough good things about them, and what a pleasure it is to work with them. So thanks for having me,
Joe. Thank you, appreciate that. All right, Joe's got some place to go, but we're going to get Ann in here. Ann Keene, Ann, you're sort of the CEO. Is that accurate, or how would you describe that?
I think we call my title business manager, but I'm really general flunky.
And no one would agree.
Far from that. Far from that.
I do serve as treasurer.
Okay. Tell us a little about yourself. What is your connection to W.H. Ward?
My mother, Inez, was the youngest of the children, and her mother died when she was 2. So Albert, that we keep talking about, was like 12 years older than her. So he became her father figure after his dad died. Mm-hmm. So she was also the only one who moved away from New Orleans. And so she moved to northeast Louisiana to Tallulah. And so every summer, our dad would take us, Mama and us 4 children, to New Orleans for 2 weeks because it was important to her that we know each other. Mm-hmm. So we got to know our cousins. Sometimes we knew our cousins in New Orleans better than they knew each other. So as my mother was the last of the children to die, and when she died in 1999, it would take 26 signatures for anybody to sneeze. And so doing legal work was very difficult. And at the advice of our hometown attorney in Tallulah, we incorporated my 3 siblings, and I incorporated our interest in the property mm-hmm. into a company that we named W.H. Ward Properties, Inc. Okay. So we donated our interest in the property to this corporation, but we left it very loose so that others could join. Well, when the 25 other people who were involved realized what was happening, they said, "Can we join in?" And that worked really well. So in the winter of 2001, mm-hmm. The winter of 2000, we all met in New Orleans and we explained to them the legal aspects of it. And all of them said, well, we'd like to join in. So we did the legal work to do that. So the property is owned by the corporation, and all of the cousins own shares of stock. Mm. And so it is much easier to facilitate business. Our board was set up to have a family member from each of the 5 original children, Albert, Bill, Doris, Marion, and Inez. So we have a board of directors who are those people who transact business. We set up, before everybody else joined in, that we would have our annual meeting in Jena on the second Saturday of March every year. So you can go out 10 years from now and see what the second Saturday is, and it's going to be that weekend. And so that gave us a fixed time that people can plan ahead and know to be here. So we come to Jena on the second Saturday of March every year, and in order to know what your business is, you need to be out in the woods and see what's going on. So we start out from Jena and go to the properties, and we look like a caravan of gypsies as we go through the countryside.
6 or 7 cars, yeah.
This morning
like
I
that.
counted 8 cars as we're going.
Caravanning.
And the pieces of property that we have are located around the parish, concentrated at Nebo, but there is one spot that's 180 acres that is down at the very south end of the parish. Oh. And so we leave the Townsman Inn, go down to Josephine Lane, which used to be Body's Landing down there. Mm-hmm. We check out the timber growth there, which has been astronomical. We had planted super pine seedlings, and so we are watching our trees grow. And from there, we come back to Nebo, and there's one almost 100 acres at Sharptown Loop that we investigate it. And then we come into the Nebo area on Harvey Bradford Road, and we have 3 sites there that make up about 400 acres there. And so we go around and look at all of those. We have 2 other sites, one at Little Jordan Cemetery and one in that area as well. So we visit those sites and see what the trees are doing and what we need to do next and how that all goes. So then we come back to Jena, and since we have access to the library, it makes it much easier to have a spot to come to. Yeah. And we have a picnic lunch and transact our formal business and go about our business at the end of that day. So we make it fun, as well as it's a genuine business operation. Yeah. And it involves every bit of the family. Some people choose not to take advantage of that opportunity. That's their choice. Others are very actively involved and keep everybody else going.
Sounds like a day-long tour itself.
It is.
Yeah. So tell me about how, when you were first forming to get all these folks together, what was their impression of maybe seeing the property for the first time or learning about the properties? What are their impressions?
I had been very fortunate in that my mother was very interested in the property. And so she would have us bring her here to see the properties. I had gone to a lot of trouble to locate them on a map, figure out a way to get there, and go to look at them. And so I knew a good bit about the property from her investigations. So when we incorporated, and then the others started hearing about what we were doing, I would say that 80% of them had never been in LaSalle Parish, period. Wow. Had no clue of what was here. So to begin to actually step foot on the property was a new experience for them. and those who want to do it are very engaged with it. We have a number of my children's generation who are stepping up to the plate and taking active roles in things that we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's been very effective from that standpoint.
When your mom used to bring you, did you have maybe a typical response of, yeah, do we have to go again this year? Do we have to go out there? Or is it something that you always really wanted to do?
There was no set time, so you didn't know when
okay.
it was. I mean,
Back
at that
then
point, it was just when she wanted to come.
Oh, okay.
But it would take a lot of effort on my part to line up with Catherine's dad. He was taking care of all of this at that point. Mm-hmm. And he had the maps, and he knew where people were and places were. So I'd have to first go to Gretna and look at maps and talk with him and find out where it was I was going to be taking Mama. Uh-huh. So it was a big learning curve. And I was telling Catherine and Sharon today, it was very interesting to me this morning when we were making our tour and stopping. We stop and talk to different people along the way. Mm-hmm. And I made some comments, and then I got back in the car and I thought, now, where did that vocabulary come from? But it's a product of the 26 years that I've been working with the property and asking questions and tracking people down here and looking at maps and documents and all of that. I like to ask questions. My family gives me a few smart remarks about the questions I ask, but you can't learn if you don't ask.
It's true.
So I do have asked a lot of questions and learned a lot and have a whole different vocabulary than what I had 26 years ago or so.
Do you remember the first time you stepped on the property?
Yes, I thought I was lost. It was before the days of cell phones, so we didn't have a whole lot to go on.
Okay.
So
you weren't sure you were on the right place?
I wasn't sure I was on the right place, because to get there to where we were this morning on Yellow Bluff Road, am I sure I'm in the right spot? But I got out of the car and walked down a dirt road, and there was a project that was going on that had W.H. Ward on it. So I knew I was in the right place.
Yeah. You know, I think we've all benefited from your mom being the youngest and imparting what she did to you, with the property, because your first intro was a gentle one. You know, you were young, and it increased through the years. When I first came out here, it was with old Joe, and it was being fed through a fire hose. And my impression was there was no way you could take that all in. And even to look at the maps, it just was very difficult to take it all in. And meeting once a year, it still was a lot. And I think for you to have had that history where you learned progressively through the years from your mom really gave you a background to do exactly what you did, to be able to learn and then to give it all to us.
But we have a spectacular family as far as the differences in people. We have a cousin, he's deceased now, but he lived in Houston, and he was really a very high caliber businessman. And he was also a very good student of history. And in his retirement, he started researching all the different aspects of the property here and created some amazing documents that have helped all of us be better people.
Awesome. I want to get back to the Higgins story since Catherine passed that off to you.
You know,
and tell us about that.
I don't know all the nuances of the detail, but Alfred Higgins and the Higgins landing vessels that were used in Normandy.
Yes, they were used in invasion on D-Day, and
Okay.
it was a special boat that the Higgins Company did develop, and they used a lot of Louisiana wood.
Albert Higgins and William Henry Ward were friends and business people. And he got a lot of the wood that he used, specialty woods, came from Algiers Lumber Company, which later was named W.H. Ward, or just Ward Lumber Company initially. So Ward Lumber played a significant role in the D-Day events. But beyond that, I don't know what all the details were.
Well, it's got to be, well, the first word that comes to mind is heartwarming to know that your family had a part of a huge impact toward the victory in World War II. I mean,
Very
it is a
historic,
history
yes.
that we hear about all the time, and we see more and more veterans of WW2 who are just not around anymore. So,
And having the World War II Museum in New Orleans,
yeah,
and almost within sight, the museum is almost in sight of where the lumber company was. The lumber mill.
lumber mill.
Because it was the mill before it was really a lumber company.
Okay.
The mill processed the logs to make them into lumber. I have a book with pictures in it with me today. And so all of that is very heartwarming, as you said,
Yeah.
to know that we played a role in that,
Yeah.
although it wasn't any of us, of course.
Well, do the folks in the newer generations grasp the significance of that?
Those people who are interested in history, yes, definitely. Okay. I have a granddaughter who happens to work in a building next to the World War II Museum. And so she is a historian, big history buff.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to her to go in the museum and see the Higgins pictures and know that she comes from some of that stock.
Yeah, I mean, if you have family members that go into the museum and look, because they have the Higgins boat on display, to look at that and say, yeah, my family had a part in that. That's incredible, I think.
Yeah. Some of my daughters are not history people, so they could care less, and that's fine. Takes all sorts of folks to make the world go around.
That's true, and I can remember my grandfather's old saying, it takes all kinds that. So, yes, that is absolutely true.
I like the history.
Yeah.
And for me, just listening to my dad's stories, the Ward family showed up for the first time in 1827 in Old Algiers Point.
Oh, okay.
And her name was Mary Ann York, and she eventually gave birth to her daughter, Anna Jane. Anna Jane married a man named John Mitchell Ward, and they had a son, William H. Ward. And it all began right there in Old Algiers Point. And during World War II, Albert sent his first 2 sons to war. So he had 2 of them over there at the same time. So I guess he made quite a contribution.
Any other stories? I think storytelling I think is so incredible for folks to hear. They want to hear the history of even families that they can relate to, because we all have families. We all have stories. I mean, I had an Uncle Bob too. So, I mean, there's that connection that's going through my mind. What are some of the other stories that y'all can share?
Of our family or of our Jena life?
Either one. The Jena life is curious, but family as well.
I don't know. I think our greatest story is 1930s and Albert and the 17 relatives living in the big white house in Old Algiers. He moved that house in there. Marianne York that I told you about, she came to town and she was married. She was actually divorced during that time, which was unheard of for back then.
It is unusual.
A woman doesn't get divorced from a man back then. But it was not a good marriage. The entire neighborhood knew about it. There was a lot that went on. And we have, or I have in my possession, the court documents, and they're all handwritten because there were no typewriters back then. They're all handwritten. And they have quotes from the neighbors about how terrible this marriage was.
Wow.
And one of them quoted the man that she was divorcing saying that you will never get this property. I'll be dead before you ever get this property. The last time we have any record of him, he was going off during the Civil War, and he never came back. But in the court documents, she got that property. And it's a piece of property in Old Algiers that's fronted on Belleville, and I guess that's Alex, and it goes back about 2 blocks. And so when they were able to get that white house, they put it on that property. And that's the property from Mary Ann to Anna Jane to William H. to Albert. And he moved that big house in there, which was a barracks. And he moved 17 family members in there.
Wow.
Including your mom. And they all survived there. And to me, that's the greatest story of family. Everything, his father had lost everything in that crash. And they came together as a family. And they wrote it out. And here we are today, still as a family. And I think it's that same spirit that pulls us together. They have lots of fun stories. And your dad's at the base of most of them, the funny parts.
So what do you see for the future? Let's start with you, Catherine.
Oh, well, Ann has done a great job of making sure that we know that we have to have people that follow behind us. That what we have here is not about the financial return. It's about knowing about family. And not every member of our family is going to jump on board. I have a son that lives overseas. He doesn't come. But my daughter here, she's here. So it'll be those select members of our family that have the same desire to keep that family bond going. And we have to find replacements for us. It's so very helpful to have modern technology where we can just get those email addresses and cell phone numbers and get them to all respond. But where do I see us going? I think that the ones that have that same desire to be a part of our family will, in fact, hang in there and be part of that family. Not all, but the history will keep going, and I think the land will keep going. I don't foresee us running out of family members or generations as long as we can keep our structure together and keep doing it. There are members of each generation that want to be here.
Sharon?
Well, we can choose to be heirs or shareholders, or both. And I think one facilitates the other to many of us. Some are kind of interested in the history, some are interested in the family, some are interested in the property. They're interested in, as I said, the conservation, the preservation part of it, or just whatever. But I think a lot of times, like she said, there's some of them that they're just, proximity doesn't allow them to do this, but and then some are just not interested, but you're still an heir and a shareholder. What are you going to do with that? And you'll leave it up to somebody else. There's always someone in every one of the different lines of the family that's going to pick up the baton and just carry it on into the next. Hopefully 2 or 3 from every branch of the family. How many do we have now, Ann, that are actually considered shareholders in all of this? Like I said, it started with W.H. as an only child. How many do we have now, do you think?
About 48 shareholders.
Okay. Yeah.
But all together with all the other children, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200.
That's a lot of people.
Wow.
It's a lot of people. So,
And let's close with you. What do you see for the future?
I see a very generous generation that's coming behind me. I have begun training people to take my role. This particular meeting was primarily produced by the people who are coming behind. They stepped right in, took up the jobs. This has probably been the easiest meeting that I've had in all the years I've been doing this. And it's because each of the families has a person who's interested in something different. And so it all came together very nicely. And by me introducing them to the various jobs and being there to support them as they did it, now they have confidence in themselves to pick up the jobs and take them forward. So I think we're doing a pretty good job of training our replacements. And I just think that's part of our management plan, is that we identify the strengths of the other shareholders and put them in the spots that need to be filled, giving them the tools that they need to work with. And it's kind of like raising children. You want them to have roots, but you also want them to have wings to fly. So I think that's where we are. We're doing that slowly. And as they learn more, my generation will step back some and we'll be the visitors rather than the doers. So I see us transitioning nicely.
You'll come more for fun than business.
I will come for fun.
I can see where, too, it takes on a new personality as you step back, and it'll be the personality of the generation behind us. But they're all dedicated. We had a good lead dog, Ann. Did a great job.
Ann Keene, Catherine Ward Hubbard, and Sharon Ward Shirley. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Mind of the Forest. This episode was sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office, or you can find them online at firstsouthland.com. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry, the SFI, the LFA, and its programs, and how you can be part of an organization that supports landowners, loggers, and the forest products industry in Louisiana, check out our website at laforestry.com. We're always looking for topics that might be of interest to you, our audience. If you have a suggestion, drop me an email at jzeringue at laforestry.com. That's jzeringue at laforestry.com. You have questions about being a Mind of the Forest sponsor? We have 14 shows every year, and we invite you to inquire about being a sponsor of our program. Drop me an email at the same address, please, jzeringue at laforestry.com. And don't forget to check out the show notes for our contact information and the contact information of our guests in this episode. Also, you can subscribe to Mind of the Forest by clicking on the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. And be sure to tap on the notification button as well. That way you'll know when we drop a new episode every month. Thank you. We really do appreciate you doing that. And remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're Mind of the Forest for you.